My name is Jeff Anderson, and I am one of the lawyers for this very courageous survivor that just filed a lawsuit yesterday. With me is co-counsel Steve Anderson, and he will be speaking as well. And to my left is another courageous survivor, Megan Peterson, who is to my left. And we would like to applaud Megan Peterson for being here today, and this particular Jane Doe, who's been identified as Jane Doe 122 in this lawsuit that was filed yesterday in Roseau Court, County Court or District Court, against the Diocese of Crookston, because Jane Doe 22 was sexually abused and violated by Father Jeyapaul, this priest right here, in much the same way that Megan Peterson was as an adolescent. Megan Peterson brought suit now several years ago anonymously, and since that time has chosen to come forward using her name. We want to again praise Megan for having done what she's done, and we want to praise Jane Doe 122 for the courage of having found her voice, reported this to the law enforcement people, and now taken this civil action. Because it is through this civil action and the voice of survivors like Megan and Jane Doe 122 that other kids can be protected. And it's those other kids who are so at risk and on whose behalf we really take this action today. And it is out of deep concern about the risk that Jeyapaul poses to children, because it is the bishops both in India and in the U.S. that have continued to give him safe passage and safe harbor, that have continued to allow him to continue in ministry until very recently. When Megan Peterson first brought her case, now over 2 years ago, Jeyapaul was in ministry and had been continued to be in ministry, and had been allowed to be in ministry in Crookston, where he abused these young girls. And then after reports were made, he was allowed to go back to India, where he was continued in ministry by his bishop there. And it was only recently that we have learned that he has now been incarcerated and subject to extradition back to the United States. One reason for our alarm today is that while Megan's case was pending, we received a letter from, put it up on the screen, from the Christian rights movement, and it's a petition addressed to both myself and the then Roseau County attorney, Lisa Hansen, and it's signed by 1,377 people, adults and apparently children, all supporting Father Jeyapaul in his ministry in India, and speaking in support of his ministry and him, and urging us and authorities here to withdraw the charges against him, and claiming and believing that he is innocent of sexual assault and does not pose a risk of harm. He does pose a risk of harm. Why? Because he can't control himself, as is evidenced by what he did to Jane Doe 122 and to Megan. But those that could control him, the bishop in Crookston and the bishop in India and the Vatican, could, and they have all chosen to protect their reputation and the predator instead of the children. So it is on behalf of the children that need protection. that Megan stands with us today. And Megan, I know you are familiar with Jane Doe 122, but why don't you just tell us a little bit about why you're here and why you chose to speak up?
I'm here today to try shed some light on what Father Joseph Jeyapaul did to me, and also to Jane Doe 122. I'm here to support Jane Doe 122 and to help protect children that may be at risk or people that have suffered because of his crimes.
And Megan, when you first brought the civil action and reported this to a law enforcement authority several years ago, you were then a Jane Doe, right?
Yes.
And you chose to come forward using your name, knowing that you didn't have to, right?
Right.
And why did you choose to do that?
It was a personal choice for me, part of my healing process, but also to put a face out there for people, make it more real, somebody for people to be able to reach out to, and to help continue to protect children.
And because of Megan's courage and insistence that something more be done, in order for her case to have been settled with the Diocese of Crookston, she insisted that there be child protection measures put in place both in the Diocese of Crookston and the bishop in India be immediately notified of both the settlement and the history here, so that they could do something more than what they had done. Unfortunately, we have no knowledge if the bishop in India or the Vatican responded to that plea, but we do now know because of the courage of Megan having come forward, the courage of Jane Doe 122 having now come forward and shared the secret that Jeyapaul has been arrested on an extradition warrant. And Steve Anderson, whose main office is in War Road and who I'm grateful to work with in this case, can address the status of that and tell us some about what we now know about Jeyapaul's status. We know, number one, that the Vatican did not act. We know, number two, the bishops chose not to act to protect kids, but rather to protect him. And we now know, number three, because of the courage of Megan and Jane Doe 122, that his status has changed. What do we know about that, Steve?
As you know, Jeff, Father Jeyapaul was arrested, or he was charged initially with felony sexual assault against Megan several years ago. But at that time, he'd already fled back to India, so he wasn't subject to Roseau County authorities at that point. The county attorney's office in Roseau has taken extraordinary steps since that time to try to bring Father Jeyapaul back to stand trial for what he did to Megan. The latest report that I have from the Roseau County Attorney's Office is that Father Jeyapaul was arrested on the extradition, on Megan's charges, that he was incarcerated, that he did have a hearing, and that the judge at that time continued his incarceration. So at this point, to the best of the Roseau County Attorney's Office and the Sheriff's Department in Roseau County, they understand that within the next month, 2 months to 3 months, there will be another hearing to determine whether he will be sent back to Roseau County. And then also beyond that, the Roseau County Sheriff's Department is investigating possible criminal charges, additional criminal charges against Father Jeyapaul with regard to his actions in Jane Doe 122.
Megan, I know from day one, your major concern has always been doing something to protect other kids, and that's why you brought that lawsuit. That's why you reported this to the law enforcement people. That's why he got charged criminally. That's why you settled this lawsuit and went public with it, and that's why you came forward. Does it bring you any comfort knowing that at least he's behind bars right now?
It does, but I think there's still more that needs to be done. Church officials need to do more outreach. I'm grateful he's behind bars as of now in a way, but there is still more that needs to be done.
And I think Megan really hit the point on the head. Jeyapaul is one priest who can't control himself, who is a serial predator, who has been moved now worldwide, internationally, with knowledge that he had offended. And top officials from the Vatican to the bishops chose rather to keep him in ministry. And it's only the courage of Megan and other survivors like her that are causing this to be known. And it is the failure of the institution and those at the top that have allowed children like Megan to have been violated, and by the choices they continue to make to allow Jeyapaul and others to roam the landscape wearing a clerical collar, believing they are trustworthy, the children are at risk. So we're grateful to Jane Doe 122, and we're grateful to Megan, and Steve and I are also making available on our website this petition that was sent to us that demonstrates the real peril that Jeyapaul and others like him present to the faithful who believe him to be a trustworthy priest to this day, as is demonstrated by this document, and also underscores the danger that the bishops and the Vatican, in this case, they permitted him to come to Minnesota from India. They permitted him to flee Minnesota and then continued him in ministry until recently. We are very alarmed. We are very alarmed by the peril and the choices being made, both by the Vatican and by the bishops in the U.S. and in India and worldwide. And so we're grateful to Jane Doe 122, and we're grateful to Megan Peterson for her courage and her will and the choice to speak up on behalf of those kids. Thank you, Megan, and thank you, Jane Doe 122, for your courage. We appreciate it. Any questions? We'll wait a moment.
I have a statement, Megan.
Okay.
You have done more to protect children than two bishops and the officials of the Diocese of Crookston have done. In your actions from the day you first filed a lawsuit to your continued vigilance, you have done more than that institution.
And I think the statement made by Bob Swiderski there is really echoed by us. When Megan settled the civil suit, she insisted that there be child protection measures and outreach measures put in place. And in the website materials and in the press packet that we have, those non-economic efforts that Megan required in that settlement are outlined here. Is it enough? No, but it's everything that she and we can do to protect other kids and exhort those in positions of power that can do more, and we will continue to exhort them to do more until we're satisfied that the children in India and in the U.S. are protected the way they deserve to be.